in the United States, but I can't really do that here. And you know why I can't? Because if I say hola, hola, it just sounds like a word to you, right? You don't recognize it as an attention getter. So another thing you need as a teacher, when you want your students to be attentive, is you need some way to get their attention. And a good way to do that is with some audible hearing, something you can hear, a signal. And then your students will talk. In the United States, especially in elementary schools, and maybe you do this here. Do you do this here where the teacher goes, and all the students go, or they do a little, or they have some kind of response? Okay. It works at high school. It works at university, and it works with adults. Turn to your partner and tell them, here's something about me. Share with your partner what you wrote about yourself. Hola, hola. Another thing that you noticed that was different, we talked about the fact that the seats were in a different position. We talked about the fact that because you have name tags, I can call on you. Is there anything else that was different when you walked in here right now today about this particular class? Did anybody else notice anything else?
You're not behind a desk. You're walking around.
I am not. I want you to notice what a difference it makes. Watch and see how it feels when I do this. Okay? Do you feel it? Is it the same? You want to see something even worse? That was worse. Watch this. Why do you think it makes such a difference for me to just the feel? What is it about this that makes me so different now than I was 2 minutes ago? Talk to each other for 10 seconds. Hey, you guys. So what's so different? What's the problem here? Yes.
I can't see you.
Well, there you go. You can't see me. That makes a difference, doesn't it? It's also because all of a sudden I become one of you. I don't have any authority when my head is at your level. One of the things that gives any speaker, a teacher, anybody that's presenting authority is that you're standing up. So remember, every time you sit down in your classroom, you lose authority. What you can do, if you teach long periods of time back to back, is you can get a stool. This isn't as bad, is it? If I'm exhausted and I come and do this, and you will not see me doing this today, but if I were to do it, at least my head is still high. So remember, your bearing is your authority in the classroom. And that all works together to bring together this sense of class. There was one other thing that I think was probably different. Did anybody notice anything else different when you walked in here? You had your desks were different, you made name tags that was different. I'm walking around a lot, that's pretty different. What else? What about this? Do you normally walk into a room where things are sitting on the chair for you?
No.
What does that say to you? What kind of message does it give you when you walk in and you say, oh, there are 2 pieces of paper here. Huh, one of them is white. What is that? What does that say to you? Talk to your partner. What did that communicate to you? Exactly. What does that communicate to you? Yes. Yes, Carlos.
Curiosity.
Pardon?
Curiosity.
It sparked your curiosity. Perhaps you went, oh, hey, there's an agenda here. Maybe you read it. I don't know if anybody did. You don't have to. It's not required. There's a seat right up here, my dear. Write with your name on it. I just need you to write your name on this. She needs a thick pen. So, yes, curiosity. Anything else?
Control, sense of control,
Oh, say that really loudly, Jasmine.
sense of control.
Since there's some control here, have you ever walked in a class and it's like, oh, I don't know, the teacher's dropping things on the floor. Papers are going everywhere and they're looking through their bag and 5 minutes has gone by and you're kind of going, okay, right? This doesn't make you feel like that, does it? So what this tells you is, she's pretty organized. We're going to do something here. We're going to do something today while we're together. So I can give you that message and I don't even have to say it. You know it because when you walked in you went, oh my gosh. And I don't know if you can see it here on the table, but see how everybody's got stacks of stuff? I like to be prepared that way. I like to make sure, you recognize yourself? I like to give my students stacks of stuff so when they walk in, if they're early, they can start thinking about it, get their curiosity going, as Carla said, and that I'm organized. Because it's for me too. It's not just for my students. If I'm that organized for them, then I know I'm organized for me. Okay? So, now we can get started today. Before we do, is there any question you have before we get started about what's going to happen today? Okay? If you ever have a question, I'm from the north of the United States. So I get on a roll with my language and I can speak quickly. If you don't understand, es que yo hablo español. Bueno, hablo inglés mejor que el español, pero si es necesario, por ejemplo, traducir algo al español, no hay problema, okay? I want to make sure you understand. I don't want you not knowing what I'm talking about. Okay, so, there we see our name tags. I even had one student create a name tag with symbols. So, her name was Diane, right? Di plus and minus the T. So, you can become very creative with name tags. Your kids can have fun doing it. And it is a way to start the most important part of what you want in your classroom. You want your kids to feel like they're all part of a group. I hope that right now you already feel kind of part of a group. How many of you are sitting by somebody that you didn't know before you walked in here? Anybody? Just two? Everybody else, y'all know each other? 3 people? Okay. Well, I hope you feel united, and I hope that at the end of this class you feel even more united than you feel today, because that sense of belonging is an important part of success in a classroom. Okay. Read and think. Read this and think. Think about it. Now, turn to your partner. Thinking about this, ask your partner a question about this, or make a statement. What does this make you think when you read this? Talk. Stop. Who'd like to make a comment, or whose partner said something interesting about this that you think was interesting? Anybody? A question or a comment about this? Whose partner said something that provoked some thought? Christina, go ahead. You're thinking it. I can see your brain wheels.
I was thinking about that, maybe, it doesn't make sense.
Everything makes sense. We just have to make sense of it, right? So, do you want to give it a shot? Do you want to try? Yeah.
I think that maybe the teaching first will be adapted to the students.
Yeah. If they're not, what's going to happen? Isn't that amazing to think that your students are from a totally different century and that the teachers are from a totally different century? So we have a lot of different environments, a lot of different issues, a lot of different problems that when I was a young teacher, I didn't deal with. For example, cell phones in the classroom. We didn't have cell phones, right? So there are many, many, many different challenges, and you all are going to be facing a lot of different challenges. So it's important to do things like this, to come to workshops, to talk to each other, to share, to get ideas, to make sure that we can appropriately teach these kids that are from a totally different century. I forgot, this really doesn't work. I discovered that. Let's do this. What are we going to accomplish today? What are we going to do in here? We're going to build relationships. We've already started that. I already know that a lot of you are happy and smiling because I see it written on your name tag. I appreciate that. And I even saw that Jennifer thinks she's a mess. And that's a good thing for a teacher to know. So we're going to build relationships and we're going to examine the importance of relationships. We're going to consider how we all learn. And we're going to reflect on best practices in the classroom. When I say best practices, does that make sense to you? Things that work. We're going to talk about things that work in a language classroom. And in this class, you all are going to leave communicating in a brand new language you've never spoken before. Yes. So, here we're going to have our quick, easy workshop quiz. Yes, I have a quiz for you. Are you ready? I know you'll do really well on this because it's really quick and easy and you're not going to have a problem, okay? The handout that I have for you, all my Mr. Organized handout, I'm so sorry this was on the next page. You should have deleted it. I hate wasting all that paper. But, anyway. Notice you've got some blanks here. As we work today on the PowerPoint, there's some activities we're going to be doing, and we're starting with the first one right now, which is our quick, easy pre-workshop quiz. So, let's get started. Okay, what's the name of this state? Talk to each other. What's the name of this state? I know you know this. Okay, so the name of the state is? It is Texas. Thank you very much. It is Texas. And now the next really easy question that I know you all will know the answer to is, identify the capital. Identify the capital of Texas. Now, listen. Sometimes I give American teachers, like I don't do Texas, because Texas is a pretty easy one, but I'll say, what's the capital of South Dakota? Most people don't know, so don't feel bad if you don't know. You live in Spain. But here's what we're going to do. Anybody think they know? Don't say it, okay? One person, two people think they know? Take 10 seconds to talk to each other real fast. What do you think the capital is? Talk to each other. Hola, hola. Any of you think about using a smartphone to look it up? I wouldn't care. But, you know, Texas, it's going to be San Antonio, Houston, Austin, Dallas, right? Those are the big cities. Carlos, what do you think it is? Yes, Austin. So, pretty good, huh? You guys got about 50%.
You got the name of the city in here.
Okay, name this traditional dish. This is a very famous dish in the United States. Do you know what it is? Bien solo. ¿Qué diría yo? Okay. Ideas? I don't think you're going to get this one, so I'm going to tell you. Because in the United States, we really only have two dishes that are American. We have macaroni and cheese, which is an absolute desecration of fettuccine Alfredo. And we have this dish, which is truly an American dish. Meatloaf, pastel de carne. You know this dish? Pastel de carne. This is typically American. Now, what do you think the ingredients are in meatloaf? Meat, number one, right? Okay, the ingredients, I don't know if I put butter, did I? Oh, Rosa's Magic Mix. It's a special product that you buy that has magic in it, that you put in the meat. Okay. I want you to notice something about my questions. Did any of those questions ask what? Did any of those questions ask where or who or when? What's funny about these questions? They're not questions, are they? What are they? Turn to your partners, talk. Why didn't she ask, what is the state? Why didn't she ask, what is the capital? Why am I using these structures? Do you have any idea? Talk a minute about the difference between my questions and this. Hola, hola. Did any of you have a thought about this? Yes. It's a little bit more challenging, right? It's not something that you can just answer with one word, usually. I mean, you can't identify the capital of Austin. You could say Austin, but it sounds a little bit loftier. These words share with all of us the name of the state. Identify, name the dish, list the ingredients. These are all part of a questioning vocabulary that you may have studied, Bloom's taxonomy. Remember Bloom's taxonomy? A very good way of keeping your students engaged is to ask questions that make them think. Because if I just ask questions that say, do you have a sister? How old is she? 18. Okay. Is she pretty? Instead say, describe your sister. And they have to produce. They have to produce language. It could still be very low level. It could still be a list. My sister, pretty, talented, nice. Was very mean to me when I was young. Uh-oh. So, Bloom's taxonomy's been around for a long time. It's actually actually just been revamped in the last few years. And you can go to a link, all you have to do is Google this, so I don't think I put notes about Bloom's on here. A little bit, but you might want to write on here that you can just Google this and you will find thousands of charts and explanations, lists of words you can use in Spanish to evoke blooms. But basically the idea behind it is that when you ask questions, there are various levels of challenge. You can ask students just to remember. What are the ingredients of meatloaf? 1, 2, 3, right? You can ask them to understand something. And here it takes more. It's harder to understand than just to remember. Do you remember how to drive a car? Do you understand what makes that cars have axles and wheels turn? What about applying that information? Now you're boosting it up even higher. They're having to take their remembering and their understanding and apply it. And then step back and really think about it. Now we're getting really to the top. Analyzing. Evaluating how that all came together. And then finally, I'm just going to create my own exciting new thing. I'm going to take all that I remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate. Now become the creator. And the creator is at the very, very top of the list. So all of these are good, and they all have different kinds of vocabulary that are connected to these kind of questions. So if you want your students to remember, you can say, state, repeat, memorize, list. If you want them to understand, describe, discuss, explain, identify. Do you see what I'm saying here? Now, if you go to the internet, they have this in Spanish, and you will find huge, huge, huge lists of terms for each of those levels of thinking. This is a great step to creating critical thinkers in your students. To help your students think critically, because when they enter the 21st century workplace, that's going to be important, that they know how to think. So you, as an English teacher, as any kind of teacher, have that ability to get them to think critically about things, and have that be one of your goals. So, how do you learn the best? What about you? We are going to turn to the next page, and there's a little chart here. So we're going to try to do something. There are a lot of you in here, but I think that we can do it. We are going to make 2 inner outer circles. We're going to do 2 groups. How many of us are here all together? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 17, 18, 19. Okay, so that's almost 40 people basically. So what we want to do is take 10 people. We're going to demonstrate with 10, and then the rest of you are going to do it back there. We're going to do 10 up here, and then we're going to do in the back. I would like just to start with 4, so if you 4 will come up with your sheets of paper and a pencil. This is an activity that you can do with your students to get them to talk a lot. You want everybody to do a lot of talking. Okay? Okay. I would like you to come here, face this way. I would like you to put your back to her back. Good. I would like you to stand facing this way, and I would like you to come here. I need 4 more people. 4 of you can come up. We're going to do it just with 4, and then we're going to expand, okay? Stand in front of somebody. Stand in front of somebody. Each of you in front of one person. Okay? Here's what the teacher does. This is what the teacher does. They're going to ask, how do you learn best? And on your paper, there's several ways, right? Do you learn best by reading alone? Do you learn best by a demonstration? How do you learn the best? And as you go around, as they ask, they'll put a little tick mark where the person answers. Does that make sense? They're going to put a little slash, 1. If everybody says they learn best by reading alone, that will have 4 slashes. Got it? Let me show you what the teacher does in this situation. Okay, you're going to ask each other how you learn best, and when I say go, start, and when I say stop, stop, and move to the right, the outer circle. Only the outer circle. Are we ready? Go. Stop. Go. Stop. Now we're going to make it bigger. And we're going to take a group back there and make a group, and we're going to turn a group up here. Let's see how big we can make this group. Let's have another 6 people come forward. 2, 4, 6, and join the inner circle. Okay, maybe we can make one humongous circle. It's possible, I don't know. You're going to, okay, watch everybody. Outer circle, come up to the front. No, inner circle's here. Outer circle, come to the front. Come to the front. And, querida, okay. Now, the hard part about inner outer circle, stand here. 1, 2, 3. Are you the 4th? No, you're one of the 4th. Okay, sorry. Okay, the hardest part is the first time you do this because nobody knows what they're doing. You can see everybody's like, oh, I don't know, it looks kind of confusing to me. Okay, so the first time you need to start with just 4. Now I'm taking the outer circle away and we're going to add 6. So to add 6, come on, 6. 2, 4, 6. And you guys have to let them in. So just join and make a little circle back and forth. So I'm teaching them, make a circle, backs to back, all back. Who else? Come on and get in. Walk, open up, open up. Open up. Okay, good. I think we can get more in. 4 more. Come on. Open up for 4 more. Okay, how many people do we have here now in our circle? I think we can get more in. Come on, you 4. Open up in the front. Okay, stay tight. Stay close. Now, you can go face somebody, the 4 outer people. Come on and find a partner. And everybody else, let's see if we can get up here and find a partner. You okay? Okay, hola. Everybody, no. Oye, okay. You've got to be talking to them like there's no speak. Come on. You've got to be face to face. Cara. Make sure there's room. Be close and friendly. Okay, who doesn't have somebody? Okay, you stay there. Get in the outer. Oh, wait. Go ahead. There's still 1 extra. Now, hola. Listen up. Listen. This will happen to you. We have an uneven number. And the worst thing you can do is have the teacher say, oh, no. Because you have to be in control. So what you can do is say, okay, you guys, who doesn't have a partner? You don't have a partner, right? So you 3 you're always going to be working as a partnership with whoever faces you. Okay, so you'll be a group of 3. 2 plus a new person. Are we ready? We're going to try to get at least 5 responses. So, ask, go, talk. Stop, go. Stop, go. Monica, I love that you're positiva. I do love summer. Christina, don't come to Texas, it's too hot. Okay. Was that fun? Did you like doing that?
Yeah.
Did you learn something about your colleagues? Did you learn something about yourself? Don't you think your kids would like to do that? Don't you think that they would find it fun too? And do you realize that rather than me saying, imagine a traditional classroom. Blanca, how do you like to learn best? Okay, she likes to teach others. Okay, what about you, Jennifer? How do you like to learn best? Audiovisual. Is that as much fun? Do you like hearing me ask every student in the class the same thing and getting a whole bunch of answers that you're bored with after the first step, right? So, let's think of ways that we can get the kids talking and learning and having fun, because that fun is a big part of motivation. They're going to want to do things if they have fun doing them. So, here's our inner outer circle here. I want to talk a little bit about collecting data, because when you teach a language, a very cool thing to do is connect your language to all sorts of other disciplines. So your students who are learning English may end up in a job where they collect data, right? So when you can do it in your own classroom, it's very, very interesting. And I'm not on my computer. I'm going to try to use an Excel spreadsheet that I made earlier. We'll see if it works or not. But I want to show you a way that you can do that using Excel. Okay, let's see. Let me see what I've got here. First of all, you can make a spreadsheet. And the nice thing about making a spreadsheet is that you can do it in class with the students. And from the Excel sheet, you can make a graph that shows how everybody in the class really feels about it. Now, what you all just did, you all are going to have, the data is not really accurate data, is it? I mean, if I say, how many of you like to reading alone, you only talked about 7 people, right? I could get accurate data another way. I could say, raise your hand if you like reading alone, right? And then I could count. And then my data would be accurate. So when you decide that you want to collect data, you have to make a decision about how you're actually going to collect it and if it is important that it's accurate or not. But let's just take a look. Let me see if this... I'm going to try to figure out... Okay. Let me see if this is an active chart. Okay, this is where I was working at home, getting ready for this presentation, and I made a little Excel spreadsheet. How many of you work with Excel? You know what I'm talking about when I say Excel. Okay. If you have a Microsoft Office programs, okay, Excel is part of it. And usually it's used to collect, to do average grades and to do something where you have to do addition and subtraction and multiplication and division. It's a math spreadsheet. But it's really fun to use in the classroom. Let me show you how. I made a chart. It's just a series of lines and squares and charts. And I made one that has all this content in it. But when I erase it, watch my chart over there. See how it's disappearing? Yeah. Okay, now, unfortunately, this is so, okay, there, maybe it'll fit in here. Okay, so now, let's just give it a try. Now imagine in your classroom, you're saying, you're trying to gather data from your students. So how many in here love audiovisual? It's your favorite. Count with me to make sure I do it right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 of you said audiovisual. So I'll type in here. 11. Okay. There we go. There's my 11. Now how many of you like role playing? Our little actors in the group. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of you like to role play. Okay? So we put role playing here. There's role playing. How many of you said you like to watch a demonstrate? See how it's done. 1, 2. That's okay. Hey, we're all different. Absolutely. How many of you like lecture? What about teaching other people? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Now, as I'm doing this, it's kind of interesting, isn't it? So even though you're not actively doing something right now, you're all thinking, oh, look what's happening, and you're watching how the class compares. What about reading alone, since we've gone this far? Anybody like reading alone? Oh, I love to read alone. I don't know how good I am about it, at least. I know I'm not very good because I'm in a book club. You know what a book club is? Like you read books with your friends. I'm putting myself in. What about discussions? You like to discuss? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 5. Good. Now, no, wait a minute. What are you doing? This file, whatever. So I don't know why my chart's not showing up here, and I'm too weirded out with this to try to fix it. But when you work in class with your students, you can actually build something. For example, in a level 1 language class, what's your favorite color? Who plays what sports in the classroom? I mean, there's just all kinds of things that you can gather data on your students. And this one for us is important because research has actually been done about how people learn. And they've taken these ways of learning, audiovisual, reading alone, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and they've created something that's called a learning pyramid. So I would like you to do the following. First, by yourself, but do it very quickly. This isn't for a grade, so do it very quickly. On this pyramid, with the bottom, it says after 2 weeks, how much retention does a student have? How much do you remember? After 2 weeks of learning, if you read alone, if you listen to a lecture, if you, in other words, if you were to put in order what research shows, which one would be the best way that you would retain the most, and which one would be the worst way that you would retain the least? Take about 1.5 minutes and see if you can fill out the chart. I love watching the people who are collaborative learners because you automatically want to work with a partner, and that's fine. Because I'm going to ask you to share your work anyway. So if you feel more comfortable working with a partner on the whole thing, that's fine. Check your work with a partner and see if y'all have the same thing. Try to come to agreement. Everybody talks back. Did you not do this in my class? Would you ask if they would do this?
Pero bueno.
Hola, hola, or rather, heads up. Okay, let's work together now. Let's work together as a group. So, after 2 weeks, what do you think is like the most horrible way to try to learn something? Well, it turns out that after 2 weeks, lecture Now, how many of you are university students? How many of your classes are lectures? Do you wonder why sometimes it's hard to remember stuff? It's like the worst way to try to learn is by lecture. What do you think the second one is? If you read alone, you only learn about 10%, or you retain about 10% of what you've actually studied. What about the next one? Audio visual. Imagine that. Watching a video. Watching my presentation here. That's why you're doing this. I could just show this to you. You wouldn't remember it. You might not even remember it anyway, but you'll have it written down. So, after audio visual, what do y'all think is next? 30%. Now, demonstration means that I demonstrate to you and you watch. It doesn't mean you demonstrate. That would be role playing or teaching others. Okay, we're still looking pretty bad, aren't we? 30%, not so good. What's next? Discussion. Now, some of you are really, you're really up there with role playing, thinking, that's just fun stuff. And yet, guess what? The next one, 75% is role playing. And it's because, why? Think about it. Let's look at the last one. Look at this percentage. How would you like your students to learn 90% of what they study? Can you imagine if your students could retain 90% of what you do in class? They can do it if they teach each other. If they teach each other and you back off and you give them tasks to do and expect them to work it out, 90%. What's the difference? You know, even 50% isn't that good. It's better, but what happens down here that doesn't happen up there? What's going on down here? Turn to your partner and explain why these are so high and why these are so low. Talk to your partner. What's the difference? Okay, so what's the big difference? Whose partner knew what the difference was? Yes, Blanca.
The students are going to interact from discussion down. Yes, they are. The students are doing.
It's active. From the 50% south, the students are active. From the 30% above, students are passive. They're being passive learners. They're sponges, but just because you're a sponge doesn't mean you keep what you soak in. So you have your passive learning and you have active learning. What you want to focus on in your classroom is active. Honestly, when you look at these statistics, why would you do anything else? Why would you do anything else other than providing your students an opportunity to teach each other concepts? That way, they'll learn it. Teachers telling, they're in la-la land. You know that basically, if I were to give a talk, if you were to come to this and I just talked the whole time and you sat there, within 7 minutes, some of you would be gone on your own trip. You would be out thinking about what you're going to do tonight, and it's not your fault. That is human. And we don't have control over it. You'd want to come back. Maybe I'd say something real exciting, and you'd be like, oh, well. But the reality is, I wouldn't have everybody. But if I have you work with somebody else in 4s or 2s, you're going to be busy. And you're not going to go up on your own little private journey during my class. Now, before we leave this concept, wait a minute, it's going the wrong way. I do want to mention this. We talked about data collecting. We talked about Microsoft Excel. Have you all ever used technology to gather data? Have you all ever gone to the Socrative site on your cell phones and done a Socrative exam? I think we should. Do y'all have cell phones? Do you have internet access? I think you should see how this works, okay? So I'm going to have to, forgive me, this is a different keyboard and everything with me, but I'm going to take you to a Socrative site and show it to you. Wait, I've got to look at this thing. I want y'all to see where it says Socrative. Go to Socrative.com and enter as a student while I get it set up. It won't let you do anything until I'm ready for you, but just go to the site, Socrative.com, and see if you can get on the internet. Okay, watch, if you've got not already or not, watch me get on, because you can set up a teacher's site. You can, today, while I'm slowly going through this, you can also set this up and be a teacher. So Socrative has a teacher's site and a student site. When you go to the teacher's site, I have more than one email address. Let's see which one. Sorry. This is different. Erase this up. Y'all are on the student site, but I want you to sort of see what the teacher sees, okay? So when the teacher goes in, I've already created some quizzes here. I've created quizzes, but see my room, 34624. You'll have your own room number, and you'll tell your students to go to that room. You'll have it written up on a PowerPoint or something, say, go to this room. So are you on the student site?
Yeah.
Okay, you can go to that room, 34624. You'll see it again. I'm going to start a quiz for you. I'll write it here. Now, notice we can have a quiz or we can do a space race. We're going to just do a quiz and see my quizzes. Here's my How Do You Learn Best quiz, which is kind of boring to do again since we've already done, but I think. Do y'all want to take a technology quiz? Let's just do what do you learn best. Now, I'm going to have you do this quiz. It's similar to what we did, but instead of using Excel, I'll be able to gather data here. So look what I can do. I can disable student names. I can randomize the order, disable feedback. There are a lot of things I can do. So I want immediate feedback. And start the quiz. I don't have an activity in progress, I don't think. Okay. So, how do you learn best? Live results means you guys can go ahead and you'll start taking the quiz. Go right now. Go to your cell phones, go to student, and take the quiz. Is it working?
Yeah.
Who's working? Socrative.com, student.
But it says you have to wait for your teacher to start activity.
I just did. Is it not doing?
Yeah. Maybe.
Oh, wait, here we go. Watch. My students are signing up. See how you'll see your students signing up, everybody's names popping up? Now the students are giving me their responses. Normally your students aren't seeing this. I'm showing you. They don't have to see this. This is for you. But I can tell who's there. I can say, okay, come on, Linda. I'm waiting for your response. Right? I can say, come on, Yasmin. There you go. Linda's responded. Are some of you having technology problems? Okay. Hola, hola. Because we're limited in time, I'm going to stop this. But can you see how this would benefit your classroom? I want you to turn to your partners and say, I could have used this to do fill in the blank. How could you use this in your classroom? Take a minute to discuss it with your partners. I'm going to stop this. Okay? So put your phones down. Take a minute to talk with your partner. Okay, I lied. I didn't stop it. Hola, hola. Do you see how this could be useful? Something, do you think your kids would like it? Do you have any internet problems where they can't get on the internet? Are they restricted? Okay, well then, they will love this. And let me show you what else. First, but look at you. You're the teacher. My students have responded. I can go, oh, I was just going to say, well, I go, Alberto, I could go straight to him and say, are you having tech problems? Why isn't this working? You know, I can work with him. Okay, Alberto, are you okay? Now, up here at the top, y'all take a look. See where it says finish? Watch what happens when I say finish. What do you want to do? Do you want to get a report? That means that I will get an email and it'll have everybody's name and everybody's response. This means if you make a real quiz where they get a grade, you're sent all, it's graded for you and you get all the grades. Or we can view the chart so you can see what the chart looks like. Oh, you know what? It's I can buy stuff. Or I can go back to my dashboard. This is called the dashboard. I don't know why the chart didn't come up, but I don't have time to troubleshoot it. I want to show you the space race because I think kids really like space races. They're a lot of fun, and it's something you can do with your students all together and get them motivated. It's a race, so you're going to have to be fast. None of this kind of like waiting around. We're going to have to be fast. Are you ready? First of all, I as a teacher have to decide. I've got to select a quiz. Do y'all want to learn about me? This is a quiz about me. See how much you know about me. You watched me now for about an hour. Okay, number of teams. I can have as many teams. We have 40 people in here, so my number of teams can be 20. Let's make it 19. Or let's make it less than that. It'll be harder. 10 teams. Okay? I'm going to have it auto-assigned. You don't get to pick your team. But what do you guys want to be? Do you want to be rockets? Or do you want to be a unicorn? Or a spaceship? Unicorns? Okay. Unicorns. Are you ready? Read fast. Don't take time to really think about it. Just put your hands. There they
Que no te extrañe.
Yo no.
Los que no se mueven, los que se han adelantado.
Okay, one more minute. 1 minute. 1 minute warning.
Que va por color, va por color. Ellos se imaginan. ¿Qué tal? Preguntas? Por ejemplo,
Ana, oh, you guys can participate. Which team were you? I have no idea. Well, if you already finished, you must have been silver, Magenta.
Yeah.
Okay. I've auto-assigned teams. Kids figure out when they see themselves moving, but you can also set up so that the students pick a color. They pick the color they want. Ultimately, I can finish, I can have a report sent to me, I've got all the names, I see their responses, etc. Now, did you like that? Yeah. Can you see that that would be a lot of fun with your students? Something they would like to do? I have to really think about this because it's so different than what okay. I just want to mention, there are a lot, hola. I mean, I don't know what to say. There are many really cool applications. I think you will love Socratic. I think that's one that you will love. There's also just only best for polling. These are all good polling applications. Socratic has so much more than polling. You know what I mean by polling? A poll is just getting a specific piece of data. Like, how many of you like red? Something where you'd raise your hands and I would count the numbers. That's polling. To take a poll, like when the president, during the elections, they poll to see how many people are going to vote for Trump.
Exactly. Thank you.
You know China.
No cursing in this classroom. Okay. Anyway, that's called poll. Poll. What do you say in Spanish is poll? Encuesta, no. Encuesta es una encuesta. Encuesta, ¿no? Encuesta. ¿Es encuesta? ¿Es igual? Lo podemos hablar luego. Okay. Now. So, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about your students, and then we'll take a break because it's been a long time. You probably need to use the restroom, but let me get through this little section and then we'll have a break, okay? I read an article that changed my life as an educator, and I want to take a few minutes to tell you about it. The article was in the New York Times. You can Google it. You can search engine it, and you can read the article. It's in English. But the name of the article is Who Gets to Graduate? Who Gets to Graduate? And it was interesting to me for many reasons, but it talked about research done at the University of Texas at Austin, which I thought was fabulous. But it talked about a problem we have in all universities in the United States. We have what are called first-generation university students. That means their mom and dad didn't go to college. Some of you may be first generation. If your parents did not go to university, you are described in the United States as a first-generation student. And a lot of those students struggle. It's harder for them. Their parents had no expectation, and so it's hard. So the article talked about how can we help these students and make sure they're successful. Because many of them leave university. They don't graduate. So the article, Who Gets to Graduate, focused on this young girl named Vanessa. And Vanessa was an awesome student in her school. In her school, she had a very, very high grade point average, 3.4 out of 4. That's very high. Very good student. In her class rank, out of 559 students, she was number 39, which is excellent. She's a good student. we have tests in the United States. Her scores were very high on her tests. She was a really strong, good student. So Vanessa goes off to university. And she's going to the University of Texas at Austin, which to go to Texas, to go to this university, you have to be smart. In Texas, you have to be in the top 7% of your class. You have to be the top 7%. If you're not top 7% in your school, you can't go to UT. So she was with a lot of smart kids. Not like her school. It's a different environment. And when she got there, she took her first test. And on her first test, she made a C, which is a bad grade. It's below notable. It's bad. And she was upset. So she called her mom, and she was crying. And what do you think her mom said? Talk to each other. What do you think her mom said? Okay, so Vanessa said, I made a C on my first exam. What do you think her mom said? Who's got some ideas? Just tell me. Don't worry. It's be happy. What else might her mom say? Study harder. What else? What do your parents say?
Lady University.
Pardon?
You can.
You can do it. Yeah, it happens. I made a bad score on my first test. Don't worry about it. I was giving this same talk in to about 160 educators in Houston, Texas, which has a big black population. And as I'm giving the talk, and I say, what would you say? Everybody say, study harder. Don't be out drinking cognacs every night. Get to work. And all the parents are talking, right? And in the front, there was a gentleman, it was a black man, a black gentleman, and he's doing this. And I said, sir, what would you say to your daughter? He said, I'd say, come on home, baby, maybe you're not ready. And guess what? That is exactly what Vanessa's mom said. She said, maybe you weren't meant to be at UT. Maybe it's just too hard for you. Why don't you come home? That's a different mentality, right? Okay, now, when people hear that, they think they can't do it. Now, I don't know about you people, but I was a Spanish teacher. And in the United States, you know what they say? What do you call somebody that speaks 3 languages? Trilingual. What do you call somebody that speaks 2 languages? Bilingual. What do you call somebody that speaks 1 language? American. So, American people think you're a rocket scientist if you can speak another language. And whenever I would go to parties and tell people I was a Spanish teacher, they looked at me like I was some kind of brilliant person, which you know isn't the case. But anyway, and they would all say the same thing. They'd say, oh, I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years of French, German life, and I don't speak a word of it. And that's what they're telling their kids. And maybe in English it's the same. Oh, English is hard. You're never going to learn it. You can't learn English in school. It's too hard. So your students are coming into the classroom with parents like Vanessa's parents who say, oh, that's okay if you make a board grade in English. Oh, you don't have to take advanced courses in English. It's hard. And it makes the student think, am I good enough? Do I belong in that class? Do I belong in that English class? Do I belong in the Spanish or the French class? Am I good enough to do it? This was a problem with students like Vanessa. So, here's what UT does. Well, they did some research to figure it out. But they did a little intervention. They called it a mindset. Does that make sense to you? Set the mind, a mindset. They gave them a 45-minute activity. And here's what the activity was. They had to read 3 short articles, short diary things from students who said, man, you know, when I came to UT, I thought I was an idiot. Everybody was smarter than me. But you know what? I worked hard. I talked to people. I realized everybody felt the same way. And I was successful, and you can be successful too. They read 3 articles that basically said that. And then afterwards, they watched a video. Somebody like me going, hey, my name's Ruth Potter. When I went to UT, oh my gosh, I thought I was going to fail everything. But guess what? I figured out it worked. Everybody's in the same boat. I thought I was the only one that was left out. But I found out everybody feels that way at first. I got over it, and you'll get over it too. 45-minute and just a little paperwork. And they had the students then follow up, and they had to write a mentoring essay. By mentoring, it means that they had to write an essay. What would you say to a student coming to UT? Well, they'd read that. So, of course, in their own words, they recycle that. It's going to be hard, blah, blah, blah. And they had to make a video. Hi, I'm Rose Potter, and I know you think it's going to be hard and you're going to struggle, but you'll be okay. So that whole process took about 45 minutes. And here are the results. White students, not first generation, 0 impact. Didn't change a thing. African American students, it tripled the percentage who earned GPAs in the top quarter. Tripled the percentage of students who had the highest GPAs. It cut in half the black-white achievement gap. In the United States, there's a gap. White students do better than black students. That 45-minute intervention cut that in half. And listen to this one. Fewer doctor visits. A 45-minute little activity. Now, that was one mindset. The belonging. Do I belong here? Making sure your students know, yes, you belong. You belong here. But there was another problem. There are 2 theories of intelligence. You may have heard people talking about this. There's one theory of intelligence that you were born with a really high IQ, you're going to do well. Rose, sorry about that. Your IQ, you're not quite so, you'll do well, but you're just not that smart. You're not as smart as Patricia. Patricia. There's another theory of intelligence, and that is that intelligence can grow, that it can change, and that it can actually increase through effort. So there was another intervention at a community college. This is where, come to community college first. They're little 2-year colleges preparing for university. So people that take math at community college, they fail like crazy. It's really hard. They have a huge percentage of students who can't make it. So they said, what are we going to do? Well, let's give them an intervention. So this intervention was a little bit, let's see, was it in that other one? Okay. So here's what they did. They had students read 2 articles. And the articles basically said, when people learn and practice new ways of doing algebra or statistics, it can grow their brains, even if they haven't done well in math in the past. So the same thing, they read 2 articles, and then they wrote a little recommendation. Study and work hard because your brain will grow. What happened? In the control group, the group that didn't do the intervention, just regular kids, the control, 20% of the kids dropped. In the intervention group, 9% of the kids dropped. They had a huge retention rate in these students. So they did a 30-minute activity, that's all the time it took, and it increased the passing rate by 50%. I mean, if you really think about that, my message to you is devise some sort of intervention with your students on day 1 to make them know that, number 1, they belong, And number 2, learning whatever you're teaching will grow their brains. And there's all kinds of articles and research out there that you can follow up with. I actually created a fake one because I don't teach Spanish anymore, but I made one, and I think I shared it with, I think it's on those, the drive I shared with you. So I want to make sure that you guys have access to that, because it's for foreign language, but you could put English in there, right? In other words, I made one for Spanish. Actually, I made it for LOT in general, languages in general. But you could put English where I have the word Spanish, and you could use it with your students. So get them to know they belong in your class and that they can do it, right? Okay, do you want to take a little break? 5 minutes? Run to the bathroom? Stand up.
Tapar tienes. Bajamos.
Baja, que lo voy a preguntar por la confusión. O bueno, yo espero que si quieres, pero vale. Dame así,
Joder, qué pollón, en serio. Piensa tranquila igualmente, gracias.
Pues he hecho un esquema del tema 1, eso es lo que he sido. Porque te los ejemplos anteriores sobre que cuando no lo haces, no hay nada. Solo motivar. Espera, que yo no espero tardar, vamos.
Te voy comprando algo, voy a decir.
No, si no quiero nada.
¿Tú quieres algo, Belén? Sí, pero no sé.
Si yo no espero tardar.
Da igual, no. Se lo preguntamos luego, si no, vea.
Vale, pues vamos a preguntar. Si no, pues no.
Sí, es que tú no lo pasas porque vas por casa.
No, van a ser rápidos.
Dice que get them back in 5 minutes.
No,
Oh, no.
no va a ser mucho más. Deberíais. Ya, oye, ya. Ya, pero... No os preocupéis demasiado, va a ir todo bien, ¿vale? Pero hay que estudiarse.
Sí.
Más de entender que de memorizar, ¿no? Sí, yo te diría que sí, claro, siempre. Siempre entender más que memorizar.
Oh, I got stuff to do. You gotta get it back. We've got things going here.
Vamos a tener tiempo para...
¿Cuánto tiempo nos queda?
Nos queda... Por ahí, sí.
Lo siento. Pero muchas gracias.
Bueno, yo soy la alumna, el niño que hacia ahora está dando clases.
No.
And you're a nurse. Get them back, round them up.
Okay.
I'm ready to go.
But I teach
I'm happy to have you here.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah.
ambitious. I'm not.
Okay, we're going to get started, and people will come in and they'll just hear us, but we're going to go ahead and get started because I want y'all to think about classrooms. And I'm wondering about, like, this is a different kind of a classroom certainly, but I want you to think about your own classrooms and how you put your seats and what they look like. So just talk for a few minutes with your people in your group about your classroom. What's your favorite classroom? Do you work with a teacher that has a horrible classroom? Do you wish it were different? Talk for a minute about your classroom. So what about it, Patricia? What kind of environment do you teach in? Right. That's very nice. It would be nice if everybody could do that. Where are my students? I'm going to go round them up.
Ya voy yo. ¿Qué tal lleváis esta asignatura, chicos? Vaya corte. ¿Te queda bien?
¿Está bien?
Sí.
¿No?
Sí, sí. No, te queda muy bien.
Juvenil. Para que espera así, una María. ¿Es verdad?
Sí, es
Sí, ¿verdad? Es que te mira antes, digo, yo creo que se la ha vuelto a cortar.
¿Quién tiene la
La otra vez fue un poco... Me queda bien, me queda lo mismo. Claro, estamos a lo mejor a largo, porque es que he tenido el pelo siempre tan mal, claro, a mí me pasa igual, yo tengo ya con ahora. Siempre tengo súper largo, como tú, pero es bueno, pero ya tengo ganas de tener. Y además, con el tiempo sí, que está
pero el caso es que nos esperemos.
Sí, ese tipo. Y de multiplicadores también.
Oye, que me está grabando como
No, porque en segundo
Okay, y'all, we're going to not have a chance to learn our new language if we don't get started. So I'm going to go ahead and get started, and I think people will just start coming in. But we're going to get started, okay? I don't know about Spain. Actually, I do know a little bit about Spain because I worked on my master's in Soria, and we had some courses in a very old school building there. And I remember thinking how different it was than the classes and the buildings I had when I was a young woman. So, As you can see in the first picture, very few classrooms are like that today. When I was in high school, my classrooms were sort of like this, right? And now at UT, you know, like this, big open classrooms, lots of seats, sometimes auditorium seating. You go in to work with a teacher, and you're limited by that teacher's classroom, right? The teacher doesn't really want you changing things around. But know when you have your own classroom, you're the person that's in control. And where a student sits in each class directly impacts their learning. If you ever want to do some interesting research, read about how where you sit impacts what you learn. So as educators, we need to know this. It's why I say, come up and sit in the front and be near me. I want you to be near me because I know the closer you are to me, the more likely it is that you're going to learn something and that you're going to retain it. And one reason I like to walk around a lot is because I want to be able to physically connect with my students. So if I'm way back behind that desk, I'm not going to have that opportunity. But I'm going to take a few minutes right now to talk about that important aspect of teaching, which is how you actually design your classroom so that it is collaborative. If you all were in long, long rows here, it would be harder to say, talk with the person next to you. It'd be a lot more difficult. You don't want to make life difficult for your students. You want to make it easy for them. So, this is my classroom when I was first teaching. And I was teaching advanced Spanish classes. I had about 15 kids in the class, and pretty much my classroom looked like this. And then one year, we lost money in the state of Texas, and my class size doubled. And then my class looked like this, but my whole life I'd always taught and learned like this, so to me, it's just the way it had to be. Well, this poses a tremendous problem. Because actually, when students walk into your classroom for the first time, and they come into this kind of a class, the first thing they have to do is they have to decide, where am I going to sit? And when you're an adolescent, and you're all anxious about everything, it's like, oh, I don't know if I can sit next to one couple. I don't know if I can sit next to Juan Carlos because, you know, he's kind of the cool guy and I'm not so cool. Or I don't know if I can sit next to Sarah because she and I had a fight with the same boyfriend when we were in the 2nd grade. I don't think she likes me. Kids always are difficult. And then what they end up doing is they end up seated in pods. In the United States, all of the kids that are Hispanic sit together. All the kids that are black sit together. All the kids, we call them kickers in Texas. Kickers for like dancing, cowboys, you know, all the kids that think they wear cowboy hats and blue jeans. So all those kickers sit together. And all the goths, you know, the girls in black and the guys in black with lots of black makeup. So they all sit together. All the cheerleaders, they sit together. So that's what you're going to end up with. Students, when they self-select, they don't necessarily select well. And then, of course, where do you suppose he's going to sit? You know exactly where he's going to sit. He's going to sit way back in the back with his friend and try to totally opt out of everything that happens in the classroom. So, of course, it's time for the teacher. I come into the classroom the best I can, ready and excited about teaching Spanish. Come on, everybody, let's have a good time. I'm enthusiastic. I want my students to be enthusiastic, but we have the first problem. So let's say this kid here, he wants me to come deal with something, he's got a problem. And for me to get to that child, I've got to go all the way that way. And then as soon as I get there, I have another problem, so I have to turn around and go check on that student. And then somebody else has a problem. It makes it really problematic. In fact, it just gets to the point where it's just insanity. It's absolute insanity. So, what you want to do is you want to cut the insanity, and instead, you want to design your room for effective, collaborative, and cooperative learning, which is what we did today, right? Who's my design team? Raise your hand if you help me set up the room. Raise your hand if you help me set up the room. Okay, my design team, we got together and we figured it out how to get y'all all in here and to make it be a workable room. These are your key words. You want your students to be able to work together, to explore, and to discover new learning. That's going to be your goal. So, this is how I changed my classroom, and I want you to look at it, and I want you to think about it, and I want you to talk to your partner about what I did in that room to make it more collaborative. Just look at it and talk to your partner for 1 minute. 60 seconds. Go. Heads up. Heads up. Okay. What do you notice? What happened to that room to make it easier and better for me to teach?
You're closer to the teacher.
I got closer to my students. I didn't have that place in the back for the bad kids, right? Okay, what else?
You can see everyone.
I can really easily see everyone quickly. It's really good for the teacher, yeah. In fact, I have a whole performance space, don't I? Because this is my performance space, because you know that as teachers we are also actors, isn't it true?
Yeah.
Isn't it true? So give yourself a performance space and get your kids up to perform as well. And make sure your classroom has a space for your students to come up and perform. Okay, what else do you notice? Boy, girl, boy, girl. Good for you. It sure is boy, girl, boy, girl. I'm really into boy, girl, boy, girl. And you know why? Why would I be so excited about boy, girl, boy, girl?
Because normally the boys sit with the boys and girls sit with the girls.
Exactly. Usually they segregate by sex. And you know that boys are troublemakers and girls are chatty gossips. Not us, of course. Adolescents, right? But the point is, if it's the first day of class and Sergio's sitting in and he has to sit by me instead of sitting by Juan Carlos or sitting by Carlos or Alberto, he's going to not probably talk as much that very first day. There's going to be a little bit of tension, right? A little bit of sexual tension, which is a good thing. So if you work in a school where you can mix the sexes, I mean, I've given this workshop in Saudi Arabia, and unfortunately this does not work over there. But if you're just not an all-girls school or an all-boys school, but if you've got mixed classes, that very first day, boy, girl it. Okay, let's take another little look at this. What else do you see? Boy, girl, boy, girl. What else do you notice about this? What kind of pods do I have here? I have little groups of 4. You're going to discover that when you want kids to work in groups, 4 is about the maximum for effectiveness. If you have a group of 5, everyone will have to have an assigned task. For example, you may wish to play a game and have a moderator and 2 people that are competing, and then a group of 5 will work. But everybody needs to have a role, because if you have 5 normally, somebody's going to opt out. Do you know what I mean by opt out? Like opt comes from the word option. Take the option of I'm out. Opt out is to say, I'm not going to participate. I'm just going to sit here and let you do all the work. And that's what you have to be cautious about when you partner up kids. You want to make sure that everybody's working. Because you know, whoever does the most work learns the most. So, we've got little pods But there's something even more important about these little pods that I want to explain to you that was very helpful for me. So I'm right now going to talk to you about setting up your classroom, taking the time to do it at the beginning of the year so that your life will be easier all year long.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you keep these groups all year, the whole year round, or do you mix it?
Here's what I do. On the very first day, in fact, when we talked initially and I said, I knew it was going to be hard and I knew we probably couldn't do it, but I was hoping I could have these made ahead of time. If I had had these, when you walked in, you would have been seated. It would not have been your choice. I would have made the decision. Now, for you guys, I mean, you know, it's not that, this is a seminar, and it's not that big of a deal. But with a high school classroom, when your kids walk in that first day of class, and they walk in and they're like, or they're looking there saying, I used to just put something like this up, and they had to sit according to the chart, and they're like, they didn't like it. And do you know why they don't like it?
Because it's different.
Why usually are students forced to sit somewhere by a teacher? What's the most normal reason that Johnny has to sit over there? Oh, come on. I can't believe Spain is that different from the United States.
He doesn't like the pair.
Like somebody's misbehaving. Like, hey Lisa, you're talking too much, or you need to stop doing that. Come sit here, right? I mean, does that not happen? Teachers move students because they're punishing them. And it starts happening with little tiny ones. And they do something wrong and, oh, you're not working well with Rose. Come on, Patricia, come over here and sit over, and you could be Sergio's problem now. Right? So in their brains, they think if the teacher tells me where to sit, I'm being punished. So when the students come in and go, we have a seating chart, I say yes, because you're going to learn better and faster. This is going to help you learn better and faster. And they know it's not a punishment, because I don't even know them. So they're like, oh, this is going to help me learn better and faster. Whatever. And they sit in their first seats. The first day of class, they do an activity that's an interview. And I've also got that if you want to see it, that you guys can have access to. The interview is like, what's your name? I'm a journalist, and I interview you. You did it. No, you didn't do it. You didn't come to the first day of class. You're a journalist, you interview me. I'm a journalist, I interview you. We do our interview. And there are about 20 questions on the interview. And the most important one is number 15. Question 15 says, how do you feel about being in this class? A, it's multiple choice. A, oh, I'm excited about learning Spanish. I can't wait. I want to be able to speak Spanish. It's going to be so cool. B, I think I can do pretty well in this class. I think Spanish is interesting and I'll do well. Or I had Spanish 1, I did well. I think it'll be okay. C, I'm nervous. I'm not excited. It's going to be hard. I think it's going to be really bad for me, but I'm going to give it my best shot. And D, I don't want to be in this class. I'm forced to be in this class because I have to take a foreign language. My counselor makes me be here. I don't want to be here. I hate Spanish. And they'll tell you. They'll tell you. They're not going to tell me, but they'll tell the interviewer. Then after that question, we back off. I also asked, is there anyone you don't want to work with in the class? That's important to know. Then that night, I have my most important job of the whole year. My most important job. I go home and I've got a big stack with their interviews, and I separate them into 2 stacks, boys and girls. And then I take the boys stacks and I go A, B, C, D. So I've got all the boys that said A, all the boys that said B, C, and D. Very few kids say D, but it happens. Same thing, girls, A, B, C, D. Then I start deciding to make my partnerships. Boy from A, girl from D. Girl from A, boy from D. Girl from A, boy from C. Get the idea? I'm mixing them up so that they have different levels of skill set. Remember what's the very best way to retain what you learn? Teaching others. Now, when they come in the next day, they have a new seating chart. And they're like, "Oh, are you going to change this every day?" And I say, no. It's going to be that way for a while. It will change, but I don't ever tell them when because I don't want them hassling me. You know, I just want to change it when I want to change it. And if it works out really, really well, sometimes I don't change it for a long time. I have students come and say, oh, thank you for putting me with Sheila. Oh, thank you so much because she's so good and she helps me. Please don't change us. If you change the partners, please let me stay with her. She's so helpful. Would I change them? No. I want to keep them together. I had 3 boys and girls get married in the courses of my teaching. They met in Spanish. Belonging. Anyway. Ultimately, this gives you all kinds of different opportunities. You can have the kids work in turn to your partner, and they know who their partner is. You never have to say, okay, turn to your partner, let's see. You're going to work together, that takes time out of your class. They always have a core partner, and they have a core group of 4. Get in your group of 4. I don't have to, let's see. And they know. Nobody sits here, you're automatically going to be a group of 3. You know that because you teach them the routine. And then you save time because you never have to explain. You just say, get in partners, get in groups of 4, etc. Now, here's what really makes it work. Remember when you've heard me say to you through the course of this workshop, I'll say, okay, turn to your partner and ask them what the capital of Texas is. And you practice. And then I call on you. And then I ask you another question. And then you talk. And then I say, whose partner had a good answer? Have you noticed me doing that? Have you noticed I don't ever ask directly, okay, let's hear it. Sarah, tell me, have I done that? Have I? Okay, y'all did the quiz about Rose, right? Okay, Anna. Who's my favorite singer? Come on, Anna, you did the quiz, you should know. Let's hear it. Come on, Anna. Now, how do you feel about that, Anna? You like that? Was that embarrassing? Because you get cold shocks when somebody just asks you a question, even if you know the answer. Even if you know the answer, it can take you time to come out with it. So, rather than directly accuse a student and ask them, tell me, tell me, tell me, why not say, turn to your partner, tell your partner, I'll give you a minute to talk about it, and then say, tell me what you learned from your partner. What it really means is the weak kids finally can answer. What it means is that the students who have less confidence, they've discussed it, they know they're working with somebody really smart, they figure it out pretty quickly, and they can trust that answer, so they're willing to offer. Because otherwise they're going to sit in class and say nothing the whole period. Have you seen it? Have you watched a class where some kids say nothing for the whole time? They just sit there quietly? Are they learning? Whose fault is it? Ours. We have to facilitate the opportunity for that student to learn. So, you saw the big picture where they're in circles, right? I want you to conceptualize what the goal was. So the goal is this is the start of a row. So imagine this, you've got the strongest student that answered A, I love Spanish, with the weakest, I don't want to be here. And they're right in the front. That weak student is close to me. Behind him, a weak student, not the weakest, but one that's not real strong. And then one that's strong but not a superstar. So you've got a group of 4 varied levels, and they can help each other. Now, if this strong guy's gone, the strongest one, in the next group, the weakest guy can turn to the next group for help. Because there's another group of strong, weak, weak, strong. And it continues to populate that way. So that if somebody ends up being answered, if you lose this guy, if this guy's gone, the weakest can turn to the guy here. Does that make sense? Okay, so the goal being that you always have somebody throughout the classroom that has the strength to answer and to respond that can help other students. Now, I always have my students say, when I'm in a group like this, and I know you're thinking it, you're not asking it, but I know somebody's thinking it. Rose. My students are gonna come up and say to me, I don't wanna work with Rose. She's the slowest student in class. Put me instead with Pablo. Pablo and I are really good Spanish students. We really work hard. We'll do so much if you put us together. I don't want to work with Rose. Right? So what do? You've got the magic key. You pull out the learning pyramid and you say, you would learn a lot with Pablo. You guys would cover a lot of material, but do you really want to learn deep content? Do you want to have deep understanding? When you teach Rose, look at the pyramid of learning, you're going to retain what you're working on. Your depth of understanding is going to grow. And I can tell you, all of you here, everything I know about Spanish, I learned it by teaching others. I didn't learn it in college, that's for sure. I learned it when students said to me, what's that about? Explain that, I don't get that. And I had to explain it to them. So I learned a lot. But for the first years I was teaching, I don't know how much my students learned because I did a lot of lecture. See what I'm saying? This way, you're putting the burden on the students. They're teaching each other. And if your strong students recognize that they're going to be better because they're teaching others, they're not responsible for being a teacher. You're the teacher. Does that make sense? I want to be real clear about that. You're not saying, okay, Pablo, you're the teacher. No, I'm still the teacher. But you are learning because you're explaining to another person how something works. You're practicing with somebody else that needs your help. And so you're going to grow more. So that's the idea. Now, yes.
What if the levels are unbalanced? You have a lot of weak students and very low number of...
Well, if you have a lot of weak students, it's not a problem because you're going to use so much comprehensible input. That's what we're going to talk about next. But the reality is, if you have more weak students than strong, something weird's going on. You can have a big group, especially in the United States now. We have a system where we used to have special classes for kids with learning difficulties, and now pretty much they're mainstreamed into classes. So you may have 4 or 5 kids that really, really, really struggle. And in those cases, sometimes there's certain things teachers have to do to work with special needs kids. But I think that the kids that are struggling isn't going to be your problem, because they can be with the strongest one or a medium one, or even just anybody that's a little bit above their level. It's not like you have to have a class with 10 smart superstars. You don't need that. The other thing is the kind of information you give your students. And it's kind of what we're going to talk about next, which is I've just been in France. I'm trying to work on my French. And I can tell you that if I'm sitting and talking to somebody and I know what the topic is, I'm pretty good. But if I were just to walk into a bar and 20 people were talking, it would not be comprehensible. What I really need is comprehensible input, and it's what we as teachers need to give our students. And I can tell you that in the United States, the people that have the biggest problem with this are people who are native speakers of the language they teach. Because native speakers have a hard time understanding the need for this. Comprehensible input is giving your students language that they can understand despite the fact that they may not know all the words. Let me give you an example. I use the term opt-out just recently. You heard me say that, right? Your students may opt out of learning. And I realized as soon as I said it, you aren't going to have a clue what opt-out is. So I said, I broke it down. Opt comes from option. Opting out means having the option to say, I'm out of here. I'm not going to study. I'm just going to sit. So opting out is making the decision to not participate. But I explained it because I don't think I was giving you comprehensible input. This is the key to really getting language across to students. The real key is making sure that the listener understands what you're saying despite not knowing a verb tense, despite not knowing all the vocabulary you're using. And in fact, it really is what your goal is. And y'all may have studied, have you ever heard of Stephen Krashen, this name? Well, Krashen's theory about the input hypothesis is all about comprehensible input, with the idea that everybody has a state of knowledge, wherever your knowledge level is, your language level. And what you want to do is you want to give language and boost it up just a bit, just a little bit, so that the learner is challenged, but not challenged too much. Because students that are challenged too much disengage. I can't do it. They turn off. They need to be challenged with just enough challenge, but not too much, so that they can continue to build their skills. So, we're going to talk about comprehensible input, and we're going to practice comprehensible input together. So first of all, you have to have exposure to that language. And that exposure is when students can have the chance to explore. Maybe they're looking at words that look like are cognates, so they know them in English because they know the Spanish words very similar. So you have exposure, and then this is what's difficult, intentional listening. They have to really be listening. They have to try, they have to want. And that's what's really hard. From the very beginning, I don't remember which one of you all said about motivation, but motivation is indeed what intentional listening is all about. And with it, you have that moment of discovery. Kids like to discover. We all like to discover. We all like to go, wow, that's cool, because we figured something out. So, these three things are what our goal are. And the exposure is where the comprehensible input comes in. The intentional listening is your level of challenge, not too hard, but hard enough to make it challenging, because then it's fun. It's fun when you get it. And finally, that light bulb goes off. Aha, I understand. So, the exposure, the intentional listening equals comprehension. And guess what? Exposure, intentional listening, it's all about teaching others. It's not going to happen in your classroom if you're the only one talking. It's just not going to happen. You're going to provide the opportunities for the students to get the exposure, to do the listening, and to comprehend. So, there's our magic slide. Now, are you ready for some comprehensible input? Are you ready to speak a language that none of you have ever spoken before? And to walk out here and have some good expressions in a brand new language?
joven.
Kal Bechom.
Hija.
Chija. Kal Bechom. You have now a new vocabulary. I'm proud of you. You never know when you're going to run into another speaker of Klingon, so talk about swimming and dancing and that sort of thing. You can say yes or no. That's important. Did you like that? It sticks with you. I can tell you, it definitely sticks with you. Anyway, wasn't it fun to discover that? something you knew absolutely nothing about. It was hard enough that it was kind of different, but you got it right away, right? And so all of a sudden you felt you were proud you could apply it. That's what your students want to do. And I want to go back a minute just to this kind of activity. This is so good for beginning learners. To just have a chart to fill in that they can use as a basic for their conversation. Give them the tools and they'll be successful. Let me see if I've added a couple things on this. No, I don't want to do that yet. Okay. What time is it? How much time do I have? We're done, right? Pardon?
Around 40 minutes.
Oh, I have 40 minutes left?
Yes.
Okay, good. I kind of rushed to make sure I got to this point. But I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to put you on a task, and then I'm going to open up something else I want to share with you, okay? So, first of all, what have we accomplished thus far? Do you feel like we've accomplished some stuff? I think so. First of all, the importance of belonging, that we recognize now that's really an important part of your classroom, and make sure that happens in your classroom. Second, considering the learning pyramid. And not only that, but have you all talked about learning styles? And that you know people have different kinds of learning styles? Have you ever, do you know what your learning style is? Okay, when we finish, I'm going to send you to do a little learning style exam. It takes about 3 minutes, but that's what we're going to do when I finish this. We've reflected on best practices about using things like comprehensible input. I really want you on your paperwork in big letters to write this. Practice before performance. You've got to give your students an opportunity to feel comfortable and to practice with what they're trying to communicate. Let me give you an example. One thing I used to do a lot when I wanted the students to, we were learning food, let's say, and they've learned past tense. So I would go into class at the beginning of lessons, and my question would be, what did you have for dinner last night? What did you have for dinner last night? I thought it was an easy question. ¿Qué comiste anoche? Even not even dinner. ¿Qué comiste anoche? I thought it was pretty simple. But if you really think about if the student gets caught cold on that, what did you eat last night? What did you eat last night? What did you eat last night? You ate food, right? Come on, you speak English. Tell me, what did you eat last night? Now, did you see that? It's horrible, right? Because here's what she has to do. First of all, she has to really think, what did I eat last night? I mean, we don't keep up tabs on that. You might not even remember. So right off the bat, I'm asking her something that if she had time, she could give me a long, detailed paragraph about what she ate last night. But I'm in front of everybody in the whole class saying, tell me what you ate. And then you know what happens? What did you eat last night? Don't tell me. And she struggles. And then I say the thing that I used to hate when teachers said this. Oh, you're going to be so mad. I would get spit mad, and I hated it when the teacher called on me like that, and I was just like, and then she'd say, can anybody help Rosie? I hated that because I just didn't have time. Give me some time. A very famous educator in the 70s named Madeline Hunter said, give your students up to a minute to come up with the right answer, because it's a struggle. But today, with students from the 21st century, if you say, okay, what did you have for dinner last night? Let's all sit quietly while we have a minute for one of our students to answer. What's going to happen? You know what's going to happen, right? Texting, talking to some, I mean, they're going to totally disengage. A minute is a lifetime now. It wasn't a lifetime in the 1970s, but today it's a lifetime. So you can do the same thing by saying this. Turn to your partner and tell your partner in English what you had for dinner last night. Tell them what, do it. No, I mean do it. What did you have for dinner last night? Talk. Hola, hola. Now watch this. This is so beautiful. What did you have for dinner last night? Pasta. Okay, good. What did you have for dinner last night, Angela? I'm sorry, Angela, what did you have for dinner last night? Eggs and potatoes? Or just potatoes?
No, eggs.
Okay, good. Eggs and potatoes. That sounds yummy. What did you have, Jennifer? Now, did you see that I can spot check and everybody had an answer? The reason everybody had an answer is they got to practice before performance. They got to practice before they had to perform in front of the whole class. It's embarrassing when you can't immediately respond. You feel stupid. And you're not stupid. It's very human to have that hesitation. So I discovered that my students could respond. And your weak students can respond. So that if I know that Christina and Rose are working together, and I know Rose is slow, and I say, talk about what you had for dinner last night. Then what I really want to say is, whose partner had something interesting for dinner? And Rose can say, oh, Christina ate, what did you eat, Christina? Fish and tomato salad. That sounds yummy. That sounds delicious. That's what my partner had for dinner. And Rose, a slow person, actually can respond. Because normally she can't. Because she's one of the kids that gets left out and just sits on her hands for the whole class. So giving kids the opportunity to work collaboratively and to practice what they're going to present in class makes them stronger. I started doing this with my level 1 classes when I was teaching in level 2. And then I started thinking about my advanced classes, they were reading Don Quixote. So I would go to those classes and everything became different. Like I'd walk into my level 1 class and go, bueno, buenos días clase, ¿cómo estamos hoy? Pregúntale a tu compañero cómo está. And that's how I started the class. I wouldn't ask a kid. And then after they all talked, I'd say, tell me, tell me, tell me. And then I'd go to the next one. And then when it came to my older kids, instead of saying, tell me 3 characteristics that Sancho and Panza don't get to share, rather than asking it, I say, turn to your partner. Think about the characteristics of Sancho. Does Don Quixote have any of those characteristics? Did he show any of those in what you read last night? And I just sat back. Now, why is this good for you as a teacher, just to be able to sit back and let your students do the work? Because then you can deal with the issues. So, a big issue in the United States, I'm going to give you a tip for solving a big issue. A big issue in the United States is that you got to get a kid doing it. So, would you please, Pablo, put your head on your desk like you're sleeping? Pretend. So, this is a problem, and I don't like this, right? So if you've got your kids talking together, you're free. You're free to go and say, are you sick? Do you need to go to the nurse? Are you okay? Are you okay? Do you need to sit up? Thanks. But you can do it one-on-one and sweetly, right? Always from your heart. You know he was just out partying last night, but you're not going to accuse him. You're going to say, oh, are you sick? Is something wrong? That's what I do with the cell phone. When I know it's going to shock you, but even in my college classes at UT, small classes, I sometimes have a student take out a cell phone. So rather than say, put that cell phone away, I won't have that in my class. No, I don't do that. What I do is I say, Blanca, is there a problem? Do you need to leave? Is it important? Do you need to leave and text somebody? Okay. Well, and then I let them leave. I mean, if it's important, because sometimes it is, right? Most of the time it's not, but sometimes it is. So, and maybe I think Pablo was out partying, and maybe he's got a fever. Maybe he's sick. The problem is if you ever directly address a child in class, and I say, okay, I want you to stop doing that because you're driving me crazy. Then that's like the next 10 minutes is going to be about the kid. I don't care. It turns into a nightmare. If instead you say, okay, everybody sit together and discuss the characteristics of Don Quixote, and then I can go over and say, you're pencil tapping. I'm going crazy. Thanks for stopping that. Then I can just deal with it one-on-one. You never want to confront kids in front of their peers because they just get upset. So, before I go any farther, I do want to point out, we also communicated in a language today, didn't we?
Yeah.
Didn't we?
Yeah.
Yes, we did. Of course we did. So we've actually accomplished my main goals today. So I'm going to show you something else, but while I'm getting prepared, I want you to go to, I don't know if you can see it very well, but there's a site called Edutopia. Edutopia.com, and if you will, on your search engine on your phone, do Edutopia Learning Styles. It will take you to a short test that will take you a few minutes, and you will discover how you learn best. Have you discovered your learning styles? If you don't have a phone, Anna, do you want to use mine? Oh, I don't, probably not on the internet. Get a friend, after somebody else has done it, share with me. Look around you, does everybody have a phone? Let somebody else use your phone if they haven't figured it out. Edutopia, but if you'll Google, it's on the Edutopia site, but if you'll search engine Edutopia Learning Styles test, or learning test.
Is it multiple intelligence?
Yeah.
Multiple intelligence test. Multiple, they changed the name, multiple intelligence self-assessment.
Ah, vale, vale.
Yes. Do the test.
Mira.
Okay, have you all gotten your learning styles? Have you finished? Did it make sense to you? There's some philosophical, there are many different perspectives on this concept of learning styles. Some psychologists say that it's not necessarily very accurate. And in a sense it isn't accurate because your learning style can change. It's not something, it's like your brain. You can grow the way that you like to learn. However, some of you probably figured out when you did the learning styles test, you probably thought, yeah, you know, it says I'm musical. I do like to listen to music when I study. And sometimes I learn by putting words to music to help me remember things. And I mean, you might discover. How many of you are surprised by your learning style? Have you all finished? No. Not everybody? If you have finished, turn to somebody who has finished and tell them what you think about your learning style. Find out what their learning style is. See what they have to say about it.
¿Ya lo has hecho? Pues nada, te dará unos resultados. No, pues es que... Ah, todavía, espera, no.
Hola, wherever you are, if you have been unable to finish this learning styles or multiple intelligence quiz, you can do it at home. It's interesting to know what your strengths are. And it's something that when I have my students come into my class, we do it for fun. Since this is in English, this would be a fun thing for your students to do. But I want to talk to you very briefly about these learning styles because, again, just because your learning style is naturalistic, it doesn't mean it's the only way you can learn. But what it really tells us as educators is that everybody's different. And we can't do the same thing every day in our classes and think it's going to work for all of our students. For me personally, and you probably can figure this out by looking at the kind of presentations I create. I am a very linguistic learner and I'm very visual. So I like having illustrations and I like color and I like stuff that catches the eye. I've had people tell me they hate my PowerPoints because there's too much to look at. All they want is the words. So everybody's different and everybody's needs are different. So you need to be able to, you need to assure that you're doing your very best to try to meet a variety of needs. So I'd like to very briefly, I'm going to go through this very quickly. And if you want this, I'll send it to y'all. You can have access to this. But basically, it shows that it has ideas for each type of learning style. How many of you in here were linguistic learners? Lots of teachers are. So you like to discuss, interpret, storytell, etc. If you're a mathematical learner, you like to analyze things and look at things logically. Spatial learners like to build models and do things with their hands. Any spatial learners in here? A lot of people that go into things like architecture like to work on cars and that sort of thing. Kinesthetic learners, they like to be physical, like what we did with Cat Sol, all that movement is very good for your kinesthetic learners, and a lot of kids are kinesthetic learners. Musical learners, the people, as I was saying, you might compose melodies to help you remember information. Interpersonal, this is where the people, yes? Y'all were all interpersonal? Okay, teachers is interpersonal as well. This is a big teacher trait too, interpersonal learners. And they're people that love collaborative learning. So these are the kids that nothing makes them happier than working in partnerships. You have some kids that don't like it as well. Doesn't mean they won't grow from it, but you do have it. The intrapersonal is your really reflective student. And that's the student that you pose something and kids are talking and all of a sudden they go, and they come out with this unbelievable, great perspective that nobody else in the classroom's thought of because they're very reflective. Naturalistics like to be out in nature and harmony. And then of course, your big picture people. Your people that only like to think of global issues and have trouble with details. I'm one of those. Anyway, so that is, keep this in mind when you're working with your students, and it's really cool to find out who is who. Let's just do a real little quick poll here. There's my list. Okay, how many linguistic? Raise your hand high. Look around at the peers. How many, when I say linguistic, your biggest number. Some of you had more than one big number, right? But your very biggest number. What about logical, mathematical? 2, 3. What about spatial? Spatial, out there, 3 or 4. What about bodily kinesthetic? 1. What about musical? 2. 1, 2, 3. A little partial hand up there. Interpersonal again. Intrapersonal. Wow, contemplative group. Naturalistic. And existential. Listen, isn't it kind of fun to see where your peers land? I didn't have to go and find out what y'all were doing, but you did it. Kind of nice to share it, right? Your kids are going to want to carry you to that extra step as well. Now, I'm going to pull out of this, and what I'm going to do next is I'm going to pull up. Remember I said charts are really good ways for kids to learn. I'm going to share with you a presentation I give language teachers. Your language is, a lot of the examples are in Spanish, okay? So patience with the Spanish, but just think in terms of English. How could you do the same thing in English? Get rid of this one altogether. Gone. There's another one. When I'm not teaching Klingon, I did want to teach y'all Basque because I assume some of you might speak it. Any Basque speakers here? Yes. If you see any errors in this, let me know. I sent it to Spain to try to do some things.
The picture is Ardoa, no Arda.
Well, how do you spell it? That's an important one. Hey, you talk to me later at the end, okay? Correct. Bring your corrections to me later so I can fix it. Okay. Yeah, you can write them down on paper. That'd be great. Here. Anyway, the point is, here's what I want you to see, okay? Not my errors. I can't believe they didn't correct it. I sent it to Spain and they sent it back. No? Okay. Anyway, notice the visuals, right? So you do not have to say, you don't have to translate to English. Or in your case, you don't have to say cafe, coffee. It's best not to use English at all if you can just get them to look at the visuals. Every time you get your students to use their native tongue when they're learning a new language, they take a step back. Because our brains like to think in the language that is our native language. We don't like to think in a new language. So as teachers, we give kids lots of opportunities to speak their native language. It's going to take a step back. They'll learn less. So using images, and then taking those images and putting it into a chart. Right? So, what's happening here? I know you speak fast, so don't tell anybody, but talk to your partner. I'm not going to tell you a thing, but I bet within about a minute and a half you're going to tell me what's going on here. Talk. To do here? Okay, we've got 4 beverages and we have a question. And then we have some columns here. This one, what does the symbol mean? No. Nothing or never or no. It's a negative, right? And then you've got more. So what do you think those might mean?
You like it?
None. A little bit. Quite a bit. A whole bunch. Now, that's not actually accurate, but it's pretty close, right? So, how might we say, what do you think the question's asking? It's asking something about coffee. If the answer is never, what might I be asking? How often? How often do you drink these beverages? And if I'm asking how often, what kind of responses might you have? Always, sometimes, rarely, never, right? So your kids, if they can figure that out, there's leap year ahead of you telling them in English what it is. And they're playing and figuring and exploring. This is an exploration activity. And then they're saying, you all did the activity. I heard a couple of you doing the activity because you figured it out. And so you decided to play with it and go ahead and do it because you were that interested. That's what you want in your classroom. Now, I've done something a little different here. What's this? Am I asking how often I do something anymore? What am I asking? Do I like it? And how can you tell about like because of the hearts, right? Now, working with images again. When you start, you can have something like this, and notice I said protein. Why didn't I say meat? Why didn't I say meat here? Because cheese is there, and eggs are there. So I just want to about foods we eat for protein. So I can go to my students and I can point to the first picture and I can say steak, and then I can go to the next one and say chicken, and have them repeat, right? That's totally fine, they can absolutely do that. But let's get them to start working with these as well. So, do you like it or don't you? If you can put it in context, if you can get them to put things in context, it has more meaning for them. So rather than just repeat the word steak, they go, steak, thumbs up, yes. Thumbs down, no. Steak, yes, I like it. Steak, I don't like it. They will have already learned I like and don't like, right? So now you're just introducing some more vocabulary. They can do it like a chart. Talk to your partner. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Collecting data. They always like to find out what everybody, get in an inner outer circle, like we did. Another thing you can do with this, you don't have to have a formal circle. You can just say, talk to 10 people. Get up. No, don't say. Talk to 10 people. Get up and just walk around the room. And you can talk to anybody you want to talk to. And then teacher calls time, you sit down. Everybody should have at least 10. Some people might have 12 or 13. You don't have to do the formal inner outer circle. Another thing that I've done with inner outer circle, if you don't have much space, I call it a snake line. So instead of making a circle, you make one line here, and then you just move like this. So it moves like a, these people are moving this way, right? So, gathering data. Once they have data, they can start working with the data. Well, 3 out of 5 liked something or didn't like it. 10 kids in the class did this, then they have to start talking about it. They can write a paragraph about it. In this class, nobody eats eggs. Or in this class, we have 3 vegetarians. No, they don't eat meat, any kind of meat at all. Get your students working. Here's what's good for you as a teacher. You have one product, and you can use it 10 times to do different things. It's the same chart. You're just doing a little bit more with it. Make them work with math. Use their numbers. Multiple choice. Put them in groups. Now they're learning their animals as well. So they have to match what goes where. And they can do it with a partnership and be verbal. Are you right? He doesn't fit on any, right? But now that they've got their animals, they can talk about where the animals live. They can talk about if they're animals that fly. I mean, you can just take your concept and carry it farther and farther. I was talking with one group about doing a restaurant. Like, you know, a very typical thing you do in a classroom is, we're going to do a restaurant. Well, you can get your group of 4 together and first have them, let's design a restaurant. Let's design the best restaurant in the world. We're going to call it Rose's Best Restaurant. No, we're going to call it Susanna's Best. Well, Susanna and Rose's Best Restaurant. And what's going to be on the menu? They design the menu. And what are the prices going to be? And what kind of beverages will we have? Let's make the menu. Now we can create the restaurant scene. And now we can record it. Let's videotape our students doing their restaurant scene with the menu that they designed for the restaurant they designed. Then once you finish with that, guess what? If they need more practice with the same stuff, but you don't want to bore them, what would be the most disgusting restaurant in the world? How about a restaurant that only serves armadillos and roaches? You know, I mean, and then they could do the worst restaurant. They could come up with the worst dishes possible. They could come up with prices that are ridiculous. And they could do the same kind of a thing and create a skit based on that. So as an educator, every time you prepare something for your students, think, can I get more, as we say in English, bang for my buck? Can I get more out of this product rather than just one day? Because if you sit and do all this work and use it once, it's too much work. You won't do it because it'll be too much work for you. So what you want to do is come up with ideas that you can incorporate in a variety of ways. I'm going to show you this because I think I have a little time still. 2 minutes. Real quick, and then we're going to do a last activity. So, in the United States, our students that are studying Spanish have a really hard time with object pronouns. Because y'all know, when studying English, they all go in different places, right? So it's hard for them. So I want to point out when you're working with your students, so this is projected. The kids see this. Do you eat it or do you not eat it? What about corn? So they've got to take this item and they've got to change it into a sentence that says, yes, I eat it, or no, I don't eat it, right? So I'm going to give them the answers. I want them to see this. Si lo como o no lo como. Speak with your partner. We're going to go over some foods. Do you eat it or don't you eat it? They have never seen an object pronoun before. They don't know what an object pronoun is. They've never seen lo. And now they're looking at the sentence. Do you think they can figure it out? Do you think they can figure it out? If you do enough of them. If you do enough of them. Now do you think they'll figure it out? You keep giving them the right answers and let them choose one. Because really all they have to choose is sí or no, right? They know comes is to eat. Here all they have to, the answers are there for them. Because what I'm really trying to teach them is the pronoun that's in red. That's what I want them to learn. So if they have enough practice, then down the road, ¿lo comes? ¿O no lo comes? Now you can start, now they can start working with it. Again, we've got a little chart. You can have the name here, el, la, etc. You can put the pronoun or not. And then you can ask, you can take it up another step. So here's what I want you to notice about this, okay? This is a chart by itself. That's one activity. This is another activity. This is a third activity. But it's on one slide. It's just 3 activities in one. You see what I'm saying? Get as much work done as you possibly can. Now, do you have any questions about anything you've seen? You know what they say about people that have questions? They have high IQs. Any questions? If not, we're going to do one more activity. I'm going to keep this up, and you're going to help me fix it and fast on it. Okay. Oh, do y'all know what IQ means?
Yeah.
Okay. That you are superior, only people of superior intelligence ask a lot of questions. So do you have questions? Okay. This is another thing you can use in your classroom. Okay. I want to explain this other piece of technology that you can use in your classroom. Get your cell phones out, and you're going to go to this site, Padlet.com / my name and ES2016. Go to that site, and I would like you to make a comment. What is your takeaway? What did you learn today? What did you learn today? And you're going to write something you learned today, and watch what happens. Share something you learned today that excited you about teaching.
Can you get in?
Double click, tap twice, and you can write on it. Tap twice and you can write your comment. To write a comment, just tap twice. Tap twice. Click twice and you can write. I'm just waiting for the first comment. What did you learn today? Español o inglés? Nobody's making a comment yet? Now notice I can see when the comments come up, so I know nobody's made one yet. You can do this in your classroom. Oh, I'm not on Padlet.com. I'm on my PowerPoint. Sorry about that. Duh. You're on off. I think I'm tired. My brain is stopped.
No, que te sale solo. Yo qué sé.
Are you guys seeing it? Okay, watch this. This is a site that you can go to, and y'all can register as a teacher here. Anybody can do this.
Este comentario de Carlos.
Log in. What is that? A little bit tall. Okay, here are my Padlets. Where's my one for thing? Are y'all seeing it? Hola, hola. Are y'all seeing that Padlet?
Yes.
Why isn't it showing it here?
Aquí está escribiendo muchas veces. Se montan unos encima de otros. Bueno, ya. Hay muy más Didáctics. Súper ¿por qué contesta? No entiendo.
Okay. I'm really sad. Because I don't know where my Padlet is.
Los deberes de escribir. Claro.
Okay. Hola, hola. I here are my Padlets, and the one for y'all isn't showing up for some bizarre reason. I don't know why, but let me tell you how it works, how it's supposed to work. So, for example, I think I did this one in technology. Okay, so this was, I did a presentation, and as people write comments, they show up on the Padlet. The thing that's flipping me out is, why isn't my Padlet showing that I prepared for you? Since you see it, you know what I mean? I don't understand why you're seeing it, I can't see it. But do you see that people just sort of can come in and add their comments? And when you're the teacher, you can take these items and you can, as people write them in, you can bring them up and make them. This is what teachers were saying were a problem for them when they were, why they weren't doing well in the foreign language. But I just don't understand why the one I made for you isn't here, because obviously you can see it, and I can't see it for some reason. So I'm really sorry. I'm going to tell them it's fine. Look at that. It's not showing up. It's very
Dime que
weird.
no puse los ojos con la ¿En serio?
I don't know. It should be under my Padlet.
No, ¿sabes que no te conozco?
But you guys have it, and no one else is here. From my Padlet, the names are different. Anyway, so, y'all listen. Oh, can you guys see it on your Padlets? Oh, good. So you're seeing what people are saying, even though I, the teacher, am unable to do so. Well, I'm glad. Okay. I would like to see it, and I'd like to save it out or something. I'll figure out on yours how to do that. Because it's there forever now. Except someday I'll find it, and I'll be able to read your messages and see what you had to say. Here's the point. Let's say that your kids are coming into an English class, and let's say you taught them, what did you have to eat for dinner last night, right? That's what they had the day before, the lesson about food and eating. Well, you can have a Padlet up, and you can have the question, what did you eat last night? And they can all come in, and they can put their foods up. Or you can have a Padlet, and you could have, when you look at the Padlet, okay, when you look at the Padlet, you could actually have it divided up, and they could put things in different areas of the Padlet. So you can say, how many of you had vegetarian food last night? How many of you had meat? See what I'm saying? So the Padlet, even though it's been a great failure for me with you today, on my end, at least you've seen how it works. You've seen the comments that your friends have written, and you'll always have access to it because you have the link now. So you can always go back to that. And I guess I could go to the same link to see it as if I were not the teacher. So I'll do that as you guys are reading today. But I really would like to know if you have a question for me. I can't believe I don't have one question.
I have one.
Yes, thank you. Hallelujah. Yes.
Do you use these things with computers or tablets or?
It's a good question. There's something, first of all, every school is different. And every school has different rules about can kids have cell phones or not. Now in the United States, there's some schools, the school districts don't want to buy books. So when a student comes in for their first year of high school, they get a tablet. And so that everything's on the tablet, everything. And in that case, they're always wired, and it's good and bad, because you know they can disengage and be doing the wrong thing on the tablet. But some schools are like that. Some schools, they disable the internet. They wouldn't even let kids get on the internet. You can't use it. It's good. However, there's a really cool application called, let me find it for you online. You can copy it down. I think it's called image to show you. If you are in a school that does not allow your students to get on the internet, you can use your cell phone to also collect answers from your students. Now you may notice you sign up for free and you can print these cards. See how the students have a card? See the difference? They have cards? Okay. The students have a card and it's basically A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D. And when the teacher asks a question, she gives them the option of 4 answers, A, B, C, D. And the students hold up their card and the teacher can take the cell phone and do like this. And it reads the cards and it tells the teacher if everybody got it or not. It's pretty awesome. If you think that you can't or you don't want your kids to be on technology in your classroom, you as a teacher can still use it. Let me see if there's any kind of, well, the cards look like this. And you can buy them or you can print them. And it explains how you use the cards. It's in English, but I think that y'all would like the site that's called Flickrs if you're not using technology in your classroom. It takes the place of something like Socrative or some of the other sites that we've been looking at. They're really good sites out there for teaching and for teaching foreign languages. Well, anyway, any other questions? That's a very good question because everybody's different in their technology. Do y'all have technology in your classrooms?
In elementary schools, we normally go to the computer labs or technology room, and that's where we work. We normally work because they don't allow our students to have their own tablets or cell phones yet.
Right.
Since they are going to be elementary teachers, I guess the option would be going to the computer lab.
Yeah, or using Flickrs. The elementary kids would really get into Flickrs. 5th grade, 6th grade kids, they would love it. But mostly for your grade, you want to do a lot of kinetic learning, a lot of body movement, right? A lot of getting the stand up, sit down, do the body language to figure out, what verbs mean, and always have them do a lot of pantomime, that sort of thing. Any other questions? Yes.
Do you use any specific technique to control the noise, or when your kids are talking all together?
Here's the deal. First of all, in a language classroom, it should be noisy. And that's a very different thing. People think the classroom should be quiet, but in a language classroom, if you're doing the job right, they should be speaking English. And that's a little noisy. That's why it's so important that you as a teacher have some way to get their attention, to stop. You heard me today use my voice a lot. Stop, go, that sort of thing. But with the little kids, it may not be enough. So you can, I don't have anything here that's really good, but, even like, that doesn't sound like a human voice. Some teachers go to the lights and they'll do this. That means stop. Because if the kids are really working, if your kids are really working hard and they're speaking a lot of language, they get excited and they're not listening to you saying, all right, let's stop, because that's just more words, right? So they need to hear something that is discordant, something that sounds, wait a minute, okay, that's a signal. And use the same signal every time. Whatever you decide to do, use the same signal every time. And then they'll hear it and they'll hush. Because it's not that you don't want them talking, but you want them to be attentive when you need to communicate. And you want them speaking English. But remember, the nice thing about that is if everybody's using English and then you've got your kids, your bad kids over here that aren't, no problem. You can come and talk to them one-on-one. And you can sort it out with the kids that are not doing their task. But the fact that you put your kids and get them working and get them learning, teaching each other, frees you up to go work with individual students and to check and see how everybody's doing. That's the beauty. That's the best part. Other question?
Do you actually suggest to use technology in order to evaluate the students? Like the final test? Or do you prefer like
You're asking, okay, what do people do, or how do I feel? They're two different things. First of all,
what do you suggest? What do you
we have in languages, when you're teaching languages, we have different methods of assessment. But what is the most important thing is not what we call discrete points. So if you have a sentence that said, Rose, fill in the blank, yesterday, and then in parentheses it had to laugh. That's not a very good test. But if you have the kids do something that is performance-based, where maybe you have the two of them are going to present themselves or make a video or do something that's performance-based, and you can sit and assess it and see if they're really using the language, it's a better assessment. You know, you definitely want a writing sample. I think one of the hardest things for all of us as being a language teacher is grading, writing samples. If you really look at testing, teachers like multiple choice, fill in the blank because they're fast, right? I would prefer to give them less and have it be producing language in some way or another. And so when you understand what I mean by performance-based, having them perform with the language versus having them just fill in a blank or true, false, A, B, C, D, you know, that's fine, and for practice it's fine, but when you actually want to assess what they know, you almost need to have some sort of oral assessment, you know, oral evaluation. And you can do that in a variety of ways. So you ask about using technology for it?
Yeah.
A lot of times,
yeah, if you use technology, you usually do like kind of test.
do you mean, for example, let me give you an example of using technology for assessment. Do you mean that I make a voice file and email it to you?
Well, no, usually they use kind of test like that on the internet. They just give you the like 4 options, and then you just pick one, and then whenever like you just need to pick one. It's, I think, especially they usually use it for grammar or structures.
Yeah.
So
Those, to me, those kind of tests are the least accurate. They're the least accurate. Let me give you an example. If the testing question says, put the following verb into the past perfect. If a child doesn't know or remember that past perfect, what that is, they'll miss them all. And it doesn't mean that the child can't say, I had studied. It doesn't mean they don't know the structure. It means that they messed up on the descriptive term, and so they missed a whole section. I remember that happening when I was testing my kids. It's like they missed a whole section because they messed up that, right? So it's just not the very best testing, but as soon as you do internet testing, you're very limited. Because the only way you're really going to have good internet testing, internet testing, is that it's going to be A, B, C, D, multiple choice, fill in the blank. Yes?
So do you think we should assess the kids in the same way we teach them? And
Yes.
if you teach them in one way, kinesthetic or whatever,
Right.
you have to assess them in the same way.
Yes, which is why the more performance-based activities you do with kids, the more you can test them in that same way. So, I mean, absolutely, you can't test them in a way that they haven't practiced.
Yeah.
Practice before performance, and that's for sure true in terms of testing. You know, in the United States, at the end of the semester, some schools require teachers to give multiple choice exams because they want the grades quickly. And so you can take a machine and, you know, grade the test quickly. And you run into the problem where you've got a good teacher that's doing performance-based assessment and doing a great job with kids, and then the school is requiring that teacher to test them in a way that they've never been prepared for other tests. So, no, it's not a good idea. Not a good idea. But I'm not a big fan of that kind of testing. Other questions? So you all are going to go out and change the world. You know that. You know, I teach college students who are going to be future teachers. And one of the first activities we do when they first come into teacher training is we ask them to write an essay about their most memorable teacher, the teacher that made the biggest impact on their life. And I think what surprised me the most when I first taught the class was how often that first teacher was an elementary school teacher. You are about to make a huge difference on the planet with the kids that come under your guidance. It's an amazing job. Teaching is the best job in the world. It's not the highest paid job. It's not the job that has the greatest status. It's not the job that you get to maybe travel all over the world and drink margaritas in Mexico City. But it's definitely the most rewarding, the most emotionally rewarding job in the world. And you're going to touch many, many lives. I'm proud of you for making teaching your profession. So, anything else?
Anything else? Well, I just wanted to say thank you very much.
It was fun.
I will appreciate with your job here with my group, and I also want to say thank you, not just from my part, but also from the department, and at the same time thank the department to make it happen.
Oh, I appreciate that. I was so excited to be able to come and talk to your students. It's very wonderful for me.
So
I'm happy.
I think we should give her a big hand, right?
Cards I'll put out if you want to ask me something later. If you come to Texas, you know you can look for me. And you're going to talk to me and fix my fast. Well, I'll tell you, I'm sending a letter to you.
Thank you.